All right, guys. Hello and welcome to Book Study. I'm super excited to lead this call. I always feel like I'm never qualified enough to still do these, as all of us probably still feel, but I do feel honored that I get to do this. And so, as always, unmute yourself. This is open to chit chatting. I would love for you guys to chime in, as all of our perspectives and things on how we comprehend text is so different. And this chapter was, or this habit was so broad. I feel like there was so much info for it. When I started taking notes last week, I started listening to it. I looked back at my notes today to kind of highlight some things to talk about. And I had literally, you guys, 8 pages of notes. And I'm like, I do not have time to talk about 8 pages of notes. So I tried to simplify and highlight some stuff to just kind of get across and then leave it up to some discussion at the end. Cause I always think that's fun when we all get to hear from each other, one or two of us gets to share. So I'm going to jump right in on habit 7. And this habit was don't be a maximizer. And boy, could I relate to this chapter. I always feel when one of us leads a call, it's meant for us to lead the call. Like we can relate so much as, we can relate to all the chapters, but I really felt like I just related to this chapter in a sense of basically, if you've ever had too many choices and then as a result, you didn't make the choice at all, like that's a maximizer, right? You have so many things that are available to choose from, and then you just don't make the choice at all. So for example, when we got the Lululemon gift card, I was like, I've never ordered from Lululemon. I don't know where to start. I was just like overloaded with all the choices, right? And so I went to Marissa and I was like, Marissa, you, I know, have gotten Lululemon. Where do I start? And so she kind of broke it down for me, right? She simplified it down and narrowed it to look for leggings and look for shorts. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I can narrow it down to that. And then we narrowed it down to sizes and we talked about sizing. But when you narrow things down, sometimes it just simplifies things for us, right? And it's not just to do with leggings. It can do with all aspects of life, health, relationships, the menu on a restaurant, like she talks about, but all sorts of things. So habit 7, she talked about is for those that constantly find themselves trying to achieve perfection. And for the longest time, I'm now in a season where I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm just aiming for progress and movement and just to better myself and better others, right? I'm not focusing on perfection. And raise your hand if you can relate to that. Like if you were someone at one time in your life, or maybe that's you now, that you're such a perfectionist. I even at my home, I was like perfectionist when it came to cleaning. I was like power cleaning and it was like overtaking my mind and everything, when I'm like, you know what, that can wait until the kids go to sleep. Or, you know what, I can power clean for 5 minutes before I go to bed, and that's good enough. Right. So I've definitely had to kind of reel it in and kind of look at some things there as a perfectionist standpoint. But she talks about like the best option from a menu on the restaurant, right? Sometimes perfectionists look at a menu at a restaurant and they're like, I don't even know where to start, right? It just overloads their brain. You go to the grocery store and you're like, okay, you see all these pastas, right? Which brand do I get? Which type do I get? And it's just overload. Do we get organic? Do we get the one that has good ingredients? All the things. And then to relate this to Plexus, I feel, and I think almost all of us, all of us on here are Plexus, which of course we are, but I didn't know if any of us invited anyone that wasn't Plexus. We can relate to this when it comes to making a post, or maybe you don't relate to this anymore, but you did when you first started, or maybe some of your new VIPs that are joining, they're just really nervous to make that first post or talk in their stories because they have that perfectionism in them, right? They are afraid of saying the wrong thing. They're wanting to have the perfect words, the perfect picture. And it takes sometimes us as leaders telling them, you're never going to say the wrong thing to the right person, right? We say that over and over again. And who cares if your picture isn't as colorful and beautiful as someone else's. We've got to stop comparing ourselves and just do it, right? Because we're different. Each and every one of us is unique and different. And we need to own that, I think. And so she talked about how this is all elusive, which elusive, I had to kind of look that up. I was like, what is elusive? Different to achieve, difficult to achieve, because there is no such thing as perfection. We're never going to make the perfect post. I make typos all the time, especially when I'm texting. Rachel's like queen at typos. But there's no such thing as perfection in anything we do. We've just got to try our best and keep on going. Especially in the world that we live in right now with all the choices that there's more choices. It feels like in the world now than there ever has been. I can relate to this when I moved to Texas, coming from a small town that has 2 stop signs and 2 restaurants. We had pizza and Mexican food. That was pretty easy to choose from if we ate out, right? And 1,500 people, like I had my friend group. I had the school we went to. We didn't have different schools to choose from. We didn't have different restaurants to choose from. So coming to Texas, I was like, oh my gosh, we can spend 30 minutes trying to figure out where we're going to eat. We spent a while trying to figure out where we were going to live based on the school district, right? There's so many things that come into play when you are given choices. And so, like I said, I could relate to this habit to a T. So she goes on to talk about how the truth is abundance is awesome, but overabundance can rob us of satisfaction. And I thought that is so, so true. Overabundance or over amount of choices can really rob us from satisfaction. So she talked about here, which I thought was kind of cool. She talked about a professor that actually taught her in college. So it said the idea in this habit comes from an author and the researcher, and his name was Dr. Barry Schwartz, and he wrote the book called Paradox of Choice. Have any of you guys read that? I hadn't read it, but anyway, so basically this book is about more choice isn't always good. And so he taught Valerie, which is the author of this book, that she, what did she say? Or she wanted to look at habits of people that were most successful versus those that tend to struggle. And what she found was one of the habits of I always say this wrong, satisficing, is to simply understand what your minimal standard is. And once you get there, just running with it. Once you know what that minimal standard is, go with it. You can relate this to, she talks a lot about, health. You can relate this to work, your relationships, but find something that, can move the needle forward, can make you happy, that you're satisfied with when it comes to decision-making choices, and just go with that. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't put perfectionism in it, and run with it. Sometimes more choice is a headache that gets you stuck. So decide, here's what I really want. And when you get there, be satisfied. I talked about this on one of the last calls that I did, but I was so fixated on, I've got to get to Emerald. I've got to get to Emerald. I've got to get to Emerald. And that rank was going to make me happy. And so I've had a complete mind shift the last, month and a half. And it's not about that, because I would have got to Emerald and I would have still been the same place I am mindset wise. I've got to really hone in on what in the process and in the journey is going to make me happy, is going to be satisfying, right? And those choices and decisions that I'm making now are going to help me get there, but I'm going to be in a better spot once I get there because of those choices and decisions that I'm making now. So I had to change that a little bit. All right, y'all, remember, feel free to chip in if you have anything. So don't look at too many options. She talked about how narrowing down your choices by satisfying, I always say that word wrong. This will help with overwhelm, and you'll be more focused and more intentional when you do that. When you don't have as many options, you just kind of hone in and narrow it down to some. Focus on the good in your choices, not the bad. So here's a really good example that I really reflected on. And when I decided, I started working out, probably it's been a month month and a half ago, right around when I started the mindset shift. I knew I needed to do something for me. I needed to get where I had some time alone. I could get the frustration out, all the things. So I looked at working out, right? And I could have focused on the negative of the working out versus the positive, because here, I'm going to show you guys something, and some of you guys are going to look at me like you are crazy, but I go to work out at 4:45 in the morning, 3 days a week. And when I first thought about that time, I was like, oh my gosh, that's too early. When I get home, I'm going to be so tired. I just started like all these negative thoughts in my head when I thought about 4:30, right? I'm not going to be able to do this. This is only going to last a week. And the funny thing is, it's actually turned into a positive. I actually get to go and work out, and then I get to come home and I have an hour of me time where I get to really, really focus on my spiritual relationship with God. And I have truly loved that time. And I also get to shower by myself without someone knocking on the shower, which is so nice. And then, sometimes I even get to get ready before the kids are awake. And if I would go to the 6 o'clock one, I would probably, and I know I'm on a tangent now, but I would probably be getting home right at 7 before I had to get Jax up and get him to school in 10 minutes. And that would not be fair to him, and it wouldn't be fun, and I would be stressed, right? And so you have to look at the positives of things sometimes and really change that mindset when those negative thoughts start to creep in. So gratitude, she said, fosters contentment, and contentment is what you're after. So contentment is what you're after. Own your decisions, which I loved this part. She said, perhaps you don't like your job that you still get up for, and you go, right? You don't like the job you go to, but you still get up and you go. That's a choice, right? We've all probably had a job before that we didn't love, but we still got up and we did it because 1, we needed money. 2, we probably needed to pay bills. And 3, that was what we had available to us. And so that was a choice. She said, you could quit or you can stay. That's your choices, right? But you have to own that decision on what you're going to do. And if you don't like the job you're in, you need to plan for what you're going to do and pivot in next. And again, I could relate this back to teaching. Was it something that I absolutely loved? No. Did I love the kids and how I felt when I did teach? Yes. But what I'm doing now wasn't what I thought I would be doing. I didn't get a career in social, network marketing, but am I happy now? Yes, I'm so happy now. And getting to have those moments like today, I got to go to Field Day and be with Jax, and I didn't have to take off. I didn't have to say, hey, can I get a sub for, an hour so I can go be with him? I just went, and because I could, and I brought popsicles, and it was just so fun. But to be able to have that freedom and to plan what you're going to do next if you don't like the current situation you're in. So it's a choice. And then successful women can look back over their lives and acknowledge major decision points that have led them to where they are today. So we're able to look back. Successful women are able to look back throughout their lives and pinpoint, okay, that was a really good decision. That was a good choice. Okay, that one was an awful choice. That wasn't a negative choice or whatever, right? We can look back at our lives and be able to pinpoint those. I was trying to read the chat some. I just saw something about choice of action. Very true too. In our business with Plexus, you have the choice, right, to go in momentum. I just had one of my gals text me and they're like, what is this new girl, Allie, doing? What is she doing? And right now, Allie is succeeding, right? Everyone is looking at Allie and they're like, what is she doing? Guys, all she's doing is making the choice to move, right? She's not just not posting and not sharing. She's moving with action. She's making the choice that she has momentum. She has fire. She has excitement, and she's running with it. And then she's getting her people to run with it, and they're getting their people to run with it. And that's what you have to do. And that's kind of what I told her. I said, there's no magic script that she's using. She's just getting them on Zoom. She's meeting up with them in coffee. She is literally just saying, hey, I just probably earned $600. You want to earn $600 in a day? Let's do it. Or, hey, you need an iPad? Let's do it. So those calls to actions, those choices. Okay. Now here's a little activity. I did kind of talk a little bit fast, but I loved in it was like the end of the book. She talked about the 5 best decisions you've ever made, and then the worst 5 decisions you've ever made. And if you took the time to write them down and really reflect on them, please share here in just a little bit, at least share one of them, or maybe share 2, or you can share the best decision. And if you don't want to share the worst, or be vulnerable and share, both, or the worst, whichever is fine with me. But I wrote down the best decisions that I've ever made in my life, and I haven't wrote down the worst yet, because I'm like, oh, I really need to think about those, which I feel like sometimes when we think about the negative choices we've made, it's easier to kind of pinpoint those. So I feel like that one will be easier. So when I was thinking about the best decisions I've ever made, and she talks about like the 5 key aspects of relationship, work, finances, health, and spiritual life. I'll just kind of run through mine real quick, and then I'll give us, a little bit of time maybe to write them down, or you guys can share while people write them down. But for relationship, my best decision I ever made, I put, was marrying the man of all trades. He is a guy that literally will do the dishes, will help me clean. And I know Dakota is listening probably with Jill, and he's like, yep, I'm that man of all trades. I do all the things. He is. And the lesson I learned from that by, marrying a man of all traits is I'm very humbled to be loved like I am, because there's so many women out there that aren't in that relationship, or, don't have a man of all traits. And sometimes I focus on the negative too much with him. And that has been a very much slap in the face too, the last, or not a slap in the face, but a mindset shift the last month and a half for me too, is I've got to, do as he does to me, or, treat him as he treats me. For work, I put leaving behind my education career. That was one of the best decisions I ever made in pursuing what truly made me happy. And the lesson I got from that was life is too short. Babies are only small for a little time. And God has a path for all of us. And when you finally feel like you're fulfilling that path that he has for you, you'll truly shine and you'll feel it. For finances, I made a little funny here. I said, putting my husband in charge of all of it. That was my best decision I ever made. For real though. He is the numbers guy. He is the guy that literally can just spit out all the things to you. And he is the one that does pay all of our bills. But I was really proud of myself when we moved to Texas. I was actually the first one to get our water turned on. And that's the first time I had ever called to turn on any bill. My mom had always done it, and Brandon had done it for us in Kansas always. And so I finally had something in my name. So I was super proud of myself. So I remember I was like walking around for like a week. Hey, I called and got the water turned on. It was so funny, but it was like our little joke. As far as health, the best decision I ever made was to start Plexus. And the lesson I learned from that was more to life than having no energy, suffering from IBS, and helping others do the same, right? It's so rewarding. And then the best thing I ever did in my spiritual life was accepting Jesus as my savior, and then working and developing to have that relationship with him currently. Because there for a while, it was like, gosh, I don't even remember the last time I prayed. And I wonder why my life is spiraling down, or my mental state is not good. Like, I have lost touch with him. And that is something that was seriously one of the best decisions that has changed my life. So if any of y'all want to unmute yourself and share either a best decision that you've made, or worst, or either or, I would love to hear from y'all. And you don't have to share, but I would love if one of you would want to, or two. Does anyone want to? Raise your hand if you do. No?
I'll share. I didn't write a list, but when you said the 5 best and 5 worst, I feel the same way about leaving the career. And it's just like life is harder as far as like schedules for me. It's all over the place, but I'm like so happy, like I enjoy going to the gym. I enjoy doing Plexus stuff. Like I don't book anybody in the morning because I want to have my slow mornings. So like for me, like I think that was the most stressful thing is getting the kids out the door, having to drive all the way to Pflugerville, and just going to a job that I hated. And so for me, that was like definitely the best thing I ever did, even though things are busier now and it's overwhelming. It's a good kind of overwhelming. So I like that five best and worst. I need to fill that out more for sure.
Yeah, I love that. And to like just constantly think about those decisions. Like if it was a bad choice or bad decision, like how could you change that? Right. Or how could you make the better choice later on or the next time it comes up? Does anyone else want to share before I kind of wrap it up? No. Okay. So I'm just going to end with like a few more things, but she talked about the most successful women are often those who are willing to persevere through challenges and disappointments until they make it to the other side. And even this was a good reminder. So like if you're going through a valley or you're going through a challenge, but you make the choice and say those positive affirmations that I will get through this. I will, have a team full of business leaders. I will be diamond. You will see the fruit of that, I feel like. And the most successful women are those that do persevere and push on, especially through hard times. So if you aren't to where you want to be yet in a decision, make a choice to keep going. And I loved that. I'm like going to write that and write that and write that. If you aren't to where you want to be yet in a decision, make the choice to keep going. And then lastly, it doesn't have to be or look perfect, nor does it have to get you through the finish line. Just have to keep moving forward is what I put. So, and something that, Jill always tells us and Rachel, they're always like, never quit on a bad day. And I just saw that she just said that in the chat. That's like reading your mind. Never quit on a bad day, right? Like if you're having a bad day in the Plexus world, never quit on a bad day. She'll let you quit on a good day. Like, yep, she'll, like she always says, or we will, any of us, if we're your leader, like we'll even go get the paperwork for you and let you quit on a good day because you won't. But just keep persevering, keep going and keep pushing and moving forward. And that's really all I got for us. If y'all have anything else to chip in or say, I would love to hear from you. I'm going to stop recording.